Want to 10x your growth? Discover how only 3 growth hacks in 10 days can change everything. Welcome to the 10-Day Growth Hacking Challenge with your host, Nader Sabri. Today, we are here with Shamimi Chowdhury, who is shaking things up in the education space in a very unique niche. Before we get started, for those tuning in, this challenge is based on the growth thinking design methodology. If you want to do what we're doing here, this is your guide. Welcome aboard, Shamim. Welcome to the challenge, and congratulations on being nominated coming into the challenge. How are you doing today?
Hi, Dr. Nader. Sorry, Nader Sabri. I'm good, thank you. It's great to be a part of this program.
Awesome. Well, it's great having your energy, entrepreneurs, kicking up some dust and changing the way that things happen in the world today. Super important, and I love what you're working on. For background, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let, obviously, Shamim take over and talk about what he does, more or less than me telling more about it. I'll jump in a little bit later on. So, why don't we just jump straight into it? Before we forget, though, anyone who does want more information, it will be available in the description. Let's kick this off. Shamim, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
So me personally, I've been working in the fintech industry for 15 years. And I've taken a huge shift now from fintech to edtech. And that's where Let's Rise comes in. The premise is to provide sustainable transformations for the billions, not just millions, but billions. And we're achieving that by providing accessible and affordable coaching, as well as real connections with people that are looking for transformation in the same space as you. And so I'm here today looking to create that unicorn of impact. And Mr. Sabri here is going to be helping me with the 3 growth challenges that I'm facing right today.
Awesome. So for a bit of background, I mean, you're combining 2 very interesting things here in the sense of you're delivering it in the form of education, but you're combining entrepreneurship and mindfulness, correct?
Absolutely. So the key foundation is mindfulness in everything we do. And our signature program is focusing on the mindful entrepreneur. And that delves into creating the mindful startup as an extension. So yes, that is the premise.
Awesome. So when you say mindful, I mean, what does that mean? I mean, explain to the audience, what does that mean in today's world? What's the difference between mindful and not being mindful? And how does that relate to entrepreneurship? And why is that important?
So there are so many aspects about being mindful. Let's think about the problems that we have at the moment with entrepreneurs. They are so fixated about getting funding. They are so fixated about bringing in revenue that they fail to realize that the missed opportunities that exist right around them, the opportunity to collaborate, the opportunity to create real impact and show real value that will prove, that they can bring in revenue in the future. It's those kind of areas that that's part of their journey, and they need to pay more attention to that journey as opposed to paying attention to, the goal, which is bringing in revenue, bringing in funding, and which is understandable. But that stress or anxiety allows you to get blinded from what's really impactful, what's really valuable, what's really going to make you sustainable in your startup.
Yeah. So is this about like being a support to entrepreneurs as they go through the journey from a mindful perspective, or are you targeting entrepreneurs who have some form of a social impact or developing a social enterprise? Is it one of the 2 or both? How does that work?
It's
exactly?
More or less both.
Okay.
We are looking for. We would love to work with other startups that are trying to create impact, and that is very much in line with Let's Rise values. But at the same time, we are looking forward to helping to build out that ecosystem of startups, especially in the Middle East, because we feel like that is an area that that needs to grow desperately to be able to create a level of impact in the region and around the world that hasn't been touched yet.
Yeah. I think you touch on something very interesting, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And it's funny because I actually watched a video that I guess you can say triggered this morning. I think it was Patrick. What's his name? David DePatrick, I think that was his name. I think does the Valuepreneur, and so he was talking about how people look at business people or entrepreneurs in general, and he was talking about how he basically works every day of the week, and people were kind of like, well, you're setting a bad example. I mean, that's exactly how he put it. And he said, well, I'm not, because this is my world. That's how it works. That's how I do what I do. That's how I deliver what I do to my family. I still make time for and he creates this balance. Okay. But he talked more importantly about kind of what you're talking about, which is like, it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. By far not the case. And we've been conditioned by hearing these brilliant success stories. So you turn to a CNN, for example, and you hear about how this great entrepreneur at the middle of nowhere has created this amazing, whatever it is. But in that story, they fail to tell us the grinding that individual had to go through, the challenge of not being able to pay bills, the challenge of people saying no, the challenge of team members taking off on you, the challenge of competitors moving in on you, and the pressure goes on and on and on. And so being an entrepreneur is very stressful. It's been painted and put on this pedestal, which is like it's this amazing, easy thing to do, but it's far from the case. In fact, he had mentioned an example where a woman had told him that being a business owner is equally as painful as giving birth, which is kind of an unusual parallel. Obviously, he articulates it a lot better because it's his own experience, but it caught my attention. And I think what you're tapping into is, helping out, the next generation of entrepreneurs, disrupting the world, but helping support them from a mindful perspective. And I think that's really important. So give us a little background about how do you plan to do that? And then we'll jump into the growth related stuff.
Sure. So if you think about the existing incubators and accelerator programs that exist today, they typically focus around ideation. They typically focus around your launch as well as your growth. Now, the area that we want to focus on first is actually your mindset. Have you accepted, who you are and your past failures? Have you learned from the mistakes you've made, of the reasons why you didn't get that job in the past, or the reasons why you had a startup that failed miserably 2 years ago? Is it because of the idea was not good enough, or is it because there's something you haven't learned yet? And so it's that reflection that is important, to be able to understand who you are, accept who you are, and accept that you are still good enough to start the next venture, the next startup. But you just need the right support. Just identify those gaps in your life, in your mindset, to be able to help complement you and address those issues and be able to create that impact on a sustainable level.
Very interesting. So blockages that get in the way of you being able to either succeed again or have your first success as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Amazing. I mean, for me, if I talk about my personal journey, I went from completely, working in the corporate world for 15 years and shifted in the last 2 years into entrepreneurship, right? Like a hard shift. And I'm not talking about a gradual shift. And I would not have been able to do that if I didn't have the right support, right? My business partner, Zahir Nasser, is one of those critical people in my life right now that have helped that transition smooth for me. And there's more people I can mention as well, but the list will just keep going.
Well, that's amazing.
But you get the picture.
Well, you're lucky if you have a list that long, because it is very difficult to find the right type of people, let alone the right type of mindset, and let alone somebody who understands. And understanding is really important. As coaching as a business explodes, some of the, not some, but many of the comments I get from a lot of people who do go to mentors or coaches, they're kind of like a standardized or cookie cutter kind of approach where it should be. And that's the key thing. It should be in a certain way, which in reality, it's not. There is no should be. Everybody's situation is very different. And so being understanding to what that would look like and what that formula for that individual would look like versus what should be is a very dangerous thing. So having that list of really good people around you, you're very lucky. It takes a lot of time and effort, and I hope you're able to replicate that and turn it into Let's Rise, where others can replicate and do exactly what you're doing to get the right people around you and get the right kind of support. Because I think every entrepreneur watching this can see the value in something like that.
I mean, that this is ultimately what it is, right? I mean, if people are helping you to achieve your goals, that means you're gathering support, right? And you're gathering support because they believe in you, right?
Yep.
If they didn't believe in who you are and what you represent and what you're trying to do and what change you're trying to make, then I would not have got that support. I would not have got that easy ride. Or I'm not going to say it's an easy ride, but I would not have such a smooth transition into this new life that I moved into.
Yeah.
So absolutely. The key is to understanding yourself, understanding your own faults, and being able to be honest with yourself and being honest with others to gather that support.
Absolutely.
That's going to ultimately be part of the journey.
Yep. I think your personal story should be central to the ethos of your brand when you communicate it, because talking about that hard transition that you had, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so there's two kinds of, I mean, for me, in my world anyways, there's always two kinds of entrepreneurs. There's the voluntary and involuntary entrepreneur. And the voluntary entrepreneur, the most obvious, which is most of the ones out there who choose to be in entrepreneurship. And then there's a slew of involuntary entrepreneurs, which is actually taking place now, which is essentially people who leave the corporate world through redundancy or other situations that force them to go into entrepreneurship, and then all of a sudden find themselves going down this rabbit hole. I'm not suggesting that's your case or many people's cases, but in my world, I've always seen it in those kind of two buckets. And the two different entrepreneurs function, work, and face completely different problems, and putting them all into one bucket is a dangerous thing, actually. They face completely different scenarios. So glad to see that. For those tuning in who want more information, click below to click on Let's Rise to go check it out and to get more information about Shamim. Before we move on, anything else you want to share with us before we jump into all the fun growth related stuff?
To be honest, I think you touched on something, which is about the idea of losing your job. And I think, you could either end up saying, oh my God, I lost my job. I'm never going to work for another company again. I'm going to start my own business and use that kind of rage, that anger to go into a startup. Or you can say, thank you for firing me. I'm glad I had that experience. I've learned from my lesson and I'm ready to move on to into the next chapter of my life. So Absolutely. There's the different ways of handling that has a huge impact.
And the funny thing is that there's no transition programs that at least I'm aware of that take people who are involuntary entrepreneurs into entrepreneurship. I only see voluntary entrepreneurship programs, which you've mentioned, the accelerators, the incubators, and the likes of, however you want to classify them. But things that look at the transformation of people going from employment to entrepreneurship, I have not actually seen, at least in mass. So you might be onto something much bigger than you think. You just need to hone into the niche and be able to address it in extreme detail.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So let's start at the very top. What are your three biggest growth challenges that are preventing you from growing? What are they? What are you facing today?
The first one is getting growth in numbers to be able to attend our events, our webinar events. Okay. The second is to be able to properly package our content in a way that provides the most amount of value in the shortest amount of time, and the greatest value in cost for our audience.
Okay, cool.
And ultimately as well is to be able to create a pathway for our audience to say, if you are interested, here's information. If you are convinced, but you want to be able to spend less time in understanding more about it, here's an option for you. But if you have more time and you are definitely interested, here's another option for you. And hope, you know, by spending more time, you're going to get more impact and greater results in the future.
Awesome. So the first challenge is user acquisition, right? So just to sum it up. So user acquisition. Number two is value creation. So that would be packaging and service delivery so that you're creating value. And the third one is more or less like funneling or packaging, being able to package and funnel the offering in such a way where you're able to address different segments of the market in different ways, from free to paid, essentially, services with, of course, different levels of value. So those are the three growth challenges, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. So in the next 10 days, we're going to be trying to 10x your growth. We're going to develop 3 growth hacks over these next 10 days. What are your 3 growth hacks as our starting point?
The 3 growth hacks, I believe, you know, we talked about, you know, the idea of using what tools that are available to me to be able to get into the mind of my audience and really understand what is going to help them see the value in what we're trying to provide.
Okay.
I think that's one. The second thing is what we've been working on already, which is creating a platform to be able to measure the number of users and the number of transformations that are happening on the platform. And that's something that's been a work in progress. We've already set that up, and we're going to be providing a mobile app version published to make that more easier for our community.
Accessibility. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. And your third?
And the third is basically, you know, getting that engagement from other coaches and therapists that really share the same values as Let's Rise, of being genuine, of being inspirational and providing value, that they will be part of this journey of Let's Rise for the long term and be a part of our webinars. Yeah.
Fantastic. So hack number 1 is tapping into the minds of the individuals to create content to position to them. Hack number 2 is creating that content to position it exactly to the way that you've done the research to find the analytics to position the data, correct? And the last one is getting the coaches in your community aligned with that data so you can put the right people together with the content and the people who'd be searching for those specific problems that you plan to resolve through the transformation training, or I don't know if that's the right word for it, but correct?
Yes, you're on the right lines. Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. So that's what we're doing the next 3 days. Okay. So that is Let's Rise. For more information, hit Shamim below to check it out. Okay. So that's what we're going to do in the next 10 days. So as we tune out, is there anything else you want to share, Shamim, before we move on, or are you ready to kickstart?
I'm excited about this journey.
Awesome. I love the energy, man. All right. So as we tune out, guys, below to get more information. For those tuning in, this is based on the growth thinking design methodology. If you want to do what we're doing here in the challenge, this is your tool. We'll see you in the next video where we're going straight into hack number 1 with Shamim. Let's Rise. Take care, guys. See you in the next video.